Hi there, my name's Sonam and I'm a meditation teacher. Today I want to share with you the number one mindfulness/meditation technique I use to fall asleep. And if you stay till the end of the video, I'll go through my full sort of sleep hygiene tips and tricks, all that stuff that I do as well. I've gone through a couple times where sleep was really out of reach and a real challenge. There was a big chunk of time when I was in my teenage sort of years, 16 to 18, where I just couldn't fall asleep. I think I had a lot of nervous or anxious energy, a lot of emotions running rampant in me, and when I would sit down at night to try and turn off, I just couldn't. At that time I would stay awake until 3 or 4 a.m. until I would finally fall asleep out of exhaustion. I've also been through some mental health challenges, which has made sure like my mind has been rampant, but my goodness, I've not just wanted to fall asleep for sleep's sake. I've wanted to fall asleep to be able to get a break from my life. When we think about the difficulty of falling asleep, what really is it? Our mind is very busy, and maybe we're very stressed from the day and we're very concerned. What's a really compassionate approach to ourselves in that moment? We have to let go. We have to relax. What's a great way to relax and let go? It's to create an atmosphere or a space which is safe and soothing. So you can kind of work with that as inspiration. How can I make myself feel safe, and how can I soothe myself? A really natural reaction for babies when they're falling asleep is to stretch. And when they stretch, they yawn. This seems to signal something and they fall asleep. Often, unfortunately, when we get older in our life and we have to suppress so many things to conform to the capitalist world out there, we disconnect from what's natural to us. A lot of people just get into bed and they don't relax. They don't take space for themselves. They don't get grounded into their body. One piece of advice I found, which made me feel a little silly to begin with, that I have started using, is artificially putting in that stretch when you go to bed. Make yourself some space, give yourself some space, check in with your body and see if there's anything that it wants to express or needs to express in order to relax and calm down and start, switching over for the night into sleep. But it doesn't have to end there with the stretch and the yawn. You can stretch, you can yawn, you can sort of roll around and move. And I'm going to stack on to this first sort of suggestion. Give your body permission, make yourself comfortable, because that's another thing we kind of disconnect from, is we disconnect from our bodies and try and force our minds into sleep mode. And then we also don't get a sense of how we're feeling in our heart space, I suppose. Are you actually comfortable when you're trying to fall asleep? And ask yourself the question, how can I make myself just 1% or just 5% more comfortable? Maybe you have an idea, maybe you don't, but if you do, you're then inviting yourself. So what are we really talking about here in this first point? We're talking about getting out of the craziness of the mind into the body, into feeling our body, into feeling our heart space as well. And so that's something I will do as I'm falling asleep after I've made myself comfortable. I'll put one hand on the lower belly, sort of just below the navel, and one hand on my heart space. And that way I can feel myself breathing and I can start tuning into myself. Gets me into my fuller self. It feels relaxing for the body and it feels soothing for the heart. The first visualization as you're lying in bed going to sleep, which can be incredibly soothing and make you feel very safe, as you close your eyes, you can imagine a safe space. Like create a visual image of a location or a place you can go that makes you feel safe and relaxed. Just that mental creation can have a profound impact on the body. 2 places I like to go. One's a historical memory from Uncle Mick's farm, and he used to have a hammock sitting out by the chickens. And I also use a fictitious place. Oh, that makes falling asleep a lot easier. Takes me away from the world, puts me in a nice safe place. If you have trouble visualizing, don't worry too much. A lot of people find that quite hard, but the more you return to it presently and calmly and slowly, you can build out the sort of visceral sensories in that environment, and that will help it become more vivid and more like a literal place you can go to escape. Another thing I know people sometimes struggle with on this visualization is sometimes the sort of negative aspects, let's just call them that, of your life still creep in. You can actually combat these with more imagination. So my partner, when she was doing this, she said, oh, but what about if I'm in my safe place and then suddenly I start to panic and I'm visualizing bad things going on. When I first did this too, because I was sort of foreign or unfamiliar with my own imagination, I had a little bit of like my doubts and worries coming in too. So I just moved my visual world into a even safer place. So if you sit down in your cave and suddenly zombies are at the front door, at the entrance, you can move your cave all the way up into Popo's what do they call it, the time chamber, whatever works for giving yourself that sense of safety. And then so along that line, the second technique under the visualization category that you can use is safe space or safe aura visualization. I'm not going to get too descriptive because it's really what works for you, and you have this kind of inner child imaginative world you can kind of reconnect to through this process as you become more in tune with your fuller self. Imagining white lights or energy around you or moving through you, imagining kind of black smoke or negative energies moving out of you. If you're having difficulty falling asleep because the waking reality in your life at the moment isn't so cheery, another thing you can do is when you lie down and close your eyes, you can imagine your best self or your best life. You can sort of go through the details, imagine how you want to look, not just like physically, but how you want to hold yourself in your life, how you want to feel space in your body moving, how you want to interact with people, how you want to feel within the world and in relationship to the world. Visualization, very evidence-based. So sure, like, yeah, metta meditation, right? Loving kindness, we've all heard of this, but what does that mean? It's kind of like just thinking nice thoughts or positive thoughts. I don't think I really need to give you a complete script. You can relax your body as you're in bed, kind of feel the weight of the bed, feel your body sinking into it. And then from that place of comfort, welcome your heart to feel love towards yourself. Have some compassion towards yourself. You can repeat some kind of mantra as well. If you don't believe it yet, you can tell yourself, I love myself, I'm whole, I'm complete, I'm accepted, it's okay, I can relax, I'll be safe. And then you can also direct this towards strangers or people you love dearly, people you've never met, towards the earth as a whole. And you can just explore those feelings. Again, I guess this is why it works, out of the mind to feeling. How do you want people to feel? Sort of love and compassion where things are in alignment and you're not fighting with anything. This is where we need to be to fall asleep, but it's also where we'd like to be to live a flourishing life. Another refuge we can take is in the breath, like a standard breath meditation, but also breath work. These days, if you type in meditation apps, you'll actually get sleep meditation apps, and a lot of that will be breath work, but there's a lot of breath work apps out there too. The most basic breathing technique is just slowing down your breath, where the exhale is longer than the inhale. Look, there's heaps of techniques. I'm not going to go into them in this video. You're more than welcome to search the App Store. There's heaps of resources on breathing techniques for calming yourself down. Some of those I will finish, and I will just, I have to stop myself from falling asleep if I'm not doing them at bedtime. Body scanning. So you're making yourself comfortable, you're relaxing in bed, and you can just start going through your body from the tip of your head all the way down to your toes in that direction, because we're getting out of the head into the body. Releasing tension. Obviously that's going to relax you. If you find it hard releasing tension, one of our little tricks is that we can squeeze an area first, like your arm, and then relax, and that has been shown to help us. Again, you can explore and experiment. You can be more or less thorough. You can do kind of main areas or every single little piece. Out of here, into here, relaxing. You can also try to just drop out of your mental space. That might be intuitive for some people. If you normally feel like you're always intellectualizing or grasping in your head, or you feel quite contracted, you can kind of maybe in a moment instantly go from being caught up in your thoughts to having at least a more general awareness of the sensations in your body. And you can kind of just use that as a refuge space. You don't need to necessarily feel like you're relaxing or altering anything. You can just, instead of being aware up here, be aware in here. So you drop from head into body, and if your mind was keeping you up, now you don't have to worry about any of that content because your awareness is on the very present sensations in your body. You know, I really feel for you out there if you've been having a hard time falling asleep. Basically, I just want to say that because life gets tough out there, and yeah, my heart goes out to you. This technique is by no means superior to any of the other techniques. It was just really the one that made the biggest difference in my life when I needed it. And I just call this sort of unhooking or disconnecting from the momentum of the mind. When I used to go to bed, my mind it wouldn't calm down. And then what I realized, and what this technique is, you can just let your mind run without being lost in the chaos or the momentum of it. Being aware of the thoughts rather than invested in the stories that are playing out. Sometimes if we don't ever try to step back and be aware of our mind, we feed it, we fuel it, and we give it more and more stories and ideas. So yeah, this is like a meditation, mindfulness practice of non-judgmental awareness. But you don't need to have a meditation practice to be able to do this. Meditation, mindfulness throughout your regular life, sure, it's going to cut down on some of that stress and anxiety we feel all the time. But I wasn't a big meditator when I first started doing this. Sometimes when we're having trouble falling asleep, we can develop an anxiety about falling asleep. We get into bed, we do all these exercises, but we've got this voice saying, fall asleep, fall asleep, fall asleep. What if we just let that thought be there? You know, because it's not judgment, it's not, let's get rid of that thought or make that thought pass. It's just, okay, yeah, I'm finding it hard to fall asleep. But I don't let it stop the rest of me from relaxing. So I can actually have that thought, I want to fall asleep, or I need to fall asleep, or oh my gosh, I'm so caught up. Well, the rest of me is just like not playing the same game. Some nights I do still find myself waking up the next morning feeling like I thought that the entire night. But if I talk to someone else who's had that experience, they'll say, you know, I had the worst night of sleep. I have the space now, from being non-judgmental about that, to actually still wake up the next morning and feel like I did get some rest. I'm able to recognize that some of my body was still actually restoring throughout the night when my mind was running that story, and it had actually started dreaming it, and I didn't realize. Okay, so the sun is coming down now. I want to rapid fire through some other kind of science-based get you good sleep techniques or tactics and advice out there, just so you don't have to go look around on all the internet. I don't know the science at the top of my head, but you can Google it. I don't use an alarm to wake up. I'm trying to be on my body's side. If it needs a little bit of extra sleep, it can have it. If it doesn't want it, then I don't need it. I do go to bed at the same time though, and I'm pretty hard on that. And I have looked at my sort of flow of my week. I plan an extra time for me to fall asleep, and then my body recently is amazing at just waking up exactly when I want to. I do have an evening routine where I will stay off my computer screens. I will use the warm light, or filter out the blue light thing, and I also try to turn off the other lights in my house as well. When I wake up, I do try to get some sunlight into my retinas pretty early in the morning, and often I'll actually meditate watching the sunrise too. So I think that's all probably helping tune up my circadian rhythm, and I'll try to get outside to go for a walk. That's going to make me a lot less restless. And I'll also try and have my dinner by sort of 4 or 5 o'clock, definitely not eating after 6. Yeah, I make sure I feel safe in my environment. If I'm somewhere new, I will kind of go around and take in the room and the space to ground myself. Feel the walls, I honestly will. That will help me feel more like I'm falling under. And I also focus on temperature too. I just want my temperature to be very comfortable if I can. Sometimes I'll use pillows to help keep my spine in alignment, just to help me be extra comfortable throughout the night. Absolutely. There's that song which you can use if all the meditation and mindfulness stuff is too hard, which has been proven to lower anxiety. Yeah, I'll have cut-off times from the digital stuff, so none of that after 6, and I also try not to do work after that too, so that I can focus on opening myself up and relaxing more than contracting and focusing. And often I like to spend the evening with my partner unpacking the day and decompressing. We'll focus on gratitudes as well, so this is just a nice way to fall asleep or be in the mood for sleep. And one thing some places in Europe do, because Austria did it as well, when I went and booked, when we had a hotel there, they actually use separate duvets to minimize partner disturbance, and we don't do that where I'm from in Australasia. Oh, look, it's so late now, better go to bed. Not quite yet. Hey, I wish you many restful nights. Routine makes a big difference, and that little trick I use of being non-judgmental about my mind at the end of the day and just letting it kind of run out its energy without becoming too involved or leaning into the stories. Now I can fall asleep anywhere, I'll tell you. I hope for you in the future to have many restful nights, and good night, my friends.